Hi, I'm Michael Weatherly.
And I'm Cote DePablo, and we're talking about Season 3, Episode 5, Switch, today.
On Off Duty.
All right. We also have a very special guest with us today, Daniela Ruah, who you may know as Kensi Blye on NCIS LA.
Oh, Danny. She's so fantastic.
She's so
What
great.
a magic human. We're so blessed. Every week we're just so beautiful, wonderful people.
Yeah, I know. We've gotten pretty lucky thus far.
Yeah. I feel the same way about you.
Oh. Welcome to Off Duty, an NCIS Rewatch podcast. This week on the show, we're talking Season 3, Episode 5, Switch. A sailor dies of a gunshot and the resulting car wreck. Gibbs and company investigate. The victim first appears to be an imposter, but Abby shows otherwise. So for context, you guys, at the time of this episode's release,
When did
October
this-
18th, 2005,
October 18th. Okay.
The Colbert Report premiered on comedy. Oh, shut up.
Colbert. But no, it's true.
Colbert.
Stephen
Colbert.
Stephen Colbert.
The Colbert? Colbert
Well,
Report.
I think
I do
Colbert-
love him. I've never really...
Is it
Who
Ralph
premiered?
Fiennes or Rafe Fiennes? I mean, people
I don't know.
pronounce things
You still
differently.
love him.
So when did so that's when it
Premiered on Comedy Central. October 2005.
Oh my God, 19 years ago.
The trial of former Iraqi President Saddam Hussein began in Baghdad.
Oh yeah.
That
didn't end well for him.
Well,
I think they hung him, right?
Well, in today's episode, the team investigates when a petty officer is found shot dead and soon discovers that the victim may have been leading a double life.
Double life. Switcheroo, baby.
When you read the script, did you see this twist coming?
No, never saw it coming. I would say about the switcheroo in Switch, the twist. Didn't see it coming. There were many red herrings. You know, the red herring
Yes.
is the sort of miscue or something. It's like a misdirection is what I mean.
Yes.
You know, well, watch this hand, and the magician does something over here. Oh, hello.
How many of the scenes with McGee were improvised?
I feel I really did enjoy watching this episode.
I'm just a junior field agent.
All the more reason you need the experience, Proby.
How about I follow in your footsteps as you lead the way?
How about you kiss my experience buttocks?
I remember parts of it, shooting parts of it, remember parts of it. I don't remember all of it, but
Do you remember that scene down in the mountain when Brian Dietzen has
yes,
to...
I do. I do.
Wasn't that... I remember when I was watching that, and this was many years ago.
Yeah.
When he did that whole thing. By the way, what people don't know about Brian Dietzen is that guy is built like a brick.
I know,
I
but
mean-
he's very, very athletic.
Super athletic. He runs like, I don't know how many miles a day. He's in tip-top shape. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Well,
got
we all are, you know, on the show.
Well, especially Brian Dietzen.
What I was concerned about when I first started watching the show is scene after scene after scene, I was wearing this mint green shirt, and I just was thinking, we got to change out of that shirt at some point. It was on there for a long time, and then I got caught up in the wardrobe. I started becoming very self-conscious. But what I really enjoyed was the Tony Ziva dynamic inside the Switch episode. It felt like something was happening between them. There was a level of irritation that was kind of like school kids pulling hair and like playing pranks. But my favorite scene of the whole episode is you and Gibbs in the elevator.
White people don't bypass the chain of command.
Which is?
Me! We clear on that? Officer David.
Crystal, Agent Gibbs.
Oh, I was just going to say, because that's a defining character scene.
Yes.
And it was such a fun scene for Mark and I. I remember when we shot it. I mean, I remember it so vividly because I had so much fun that, you know, going back to the elevator and shutting the lights. And it was a power play. I remember watching it this morning. It was the first time that you see the character of Ziva actually sort of challenging this authority figure, you know? And I thought, what an interesting thing that it was so that was so clear from the beginning. Belisario started writing that very early on, that she would have no qualms about just kind of saying like, hey, I understand your rules. Do you understand that there are some rules that I also want you to abide by? And I thought that was such an interesting sort of power thing between
but
them.
I think it also did
But
something
by the way,
where it
a lot of
set up
respect.
the character, the respect, but it set up the map for your character and Gibbs' character in relation to it. You are Officer David, not Agent David. You have a relationship with Jenny
Sure.
Shepard that is outside his circle of
And he's
control.
asking for,
And he's saying,
asking
no,
for,
you will go through me and she will go
Right.
through me because
Right.
I am your superior. And this is
Yes.
chain of command. And there is a hierarchy in this family. There is a hierarchy
Yes.
on this set.
your loyalty is to me.
But I did feel that, the lines could blur. But when you're watching that particular scene, what I got it from watching it again as well was that I don't remember anyone really speaking to Gibbs that way who was not either an equal to him or an opponent
Mhm.
in an interrogation or a crime, or like Fornell can talk to him like
Sure.
that. And Alan Dale, the former director,
Sure.
Tom Morrow, which you run them together as Tomorrow. His name is Tom Morrow. I'm not kidding. That's what they,
Nerd.
makes Tom Morrow. Rocky Carroll could
Yes.
look at and Lauren Holly, Director Shepard. These are the characters who can speak truth to power as Gibbs is, and even very importantly, can be above him and can say, "Hey, you don't follow me into my office. You don't do this. You work for me." Gibbs, right? And then you see that Gibbs doesn't like being told, here's the hierarchy, you work for me and you're going to obey
Sure,
my rules.
sure.
But
I
he
do
has
think-
no problem telling people under him. So you wonder, like, how would...
But I think they
but-
both had that thing, which is the interesting part about the elevator scene.
Yes.
Is that I think you're saying the same thing in many ways that I'm saying, is that they both have a little bit of that quality in them. And
They're
I
rebels.
think that totally, they have a problem with authority.
Yeah. But Gibbs has a problem with authority, but is also demanding that you observe his authority.
Demanding.
I took the wrong bus this morning. Had to walk from the 18th Street stop.
It's a tough part of town.
I've been in worse. Won't happen again, Gibbs.
I know.
And she, in many ways, at the end of that scene,
And the end
also
of that scene
demands
says,
the same thing.
and you get
It's
it.
about respect. I don't think she ever had a problem because watching, especially in the early scenes of that episode, when she comes in and she's late and then he, makes it very known that, she's late, you know what I mean? Makes her feel it.
Right.
And then she's on edge the entire time trying to figure out like, hey, this guy, like what's going on with him,
Now, how much
And
do
you're
you
like,
think the writers are also looking at the dynamics on set, the real actor dynamics? We talked about the clock, and
Yes.
if you're late coming to work, you get the clock. Like how Harmon felt about making sure that the integrity of this troupe of actors that has to work together
Sure.
through rain.
I mean, that's
you
a
know,
really interesting point. I think there's a little of that. I think they probably
It
were
does
like,
reflect,
hey, let's
you know?
let's play around with this because that's a real thing. And I think, yeah.
Because I
Do
think
you
that they do
think
the
by
same
any
thing
chance
to me.
they were
yeah.
still trying to figure out what to do with Ziva at this point?
I
Because
don't.
I was watching, for example, this is a very interesting thing. I was tracking the wardrobe
Mhm.
and I was like, why is she wearing a skirt?
Oh yeah.
This was early
So
on
they were
where they were just
experimenting with things.
Yes. And they were very much like, can she wear skirts? And I was like, oh God, I thought, where are the cargos?
Right.
I was like, where are the, the easy, comfortable stuff where she can kick someone and she can,
Well,
or
they
that
do that.
wonderful crime scene investigation scene where you're talking about the Hawaiian shirt.
Oh yeah.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Do you realize what we have here?
Another ugly shirt?
It's an authentic Magnum PI Jungle Bird design. 100% cotton, bamboo buttons.
Well, his
think-
enthusiasm for pop culture and his enthusiasm for particularly shows produced by Donald P. Belisario in the 80s. But the Magnum PI piece of DiNozzo is really important because Magnum PI is about a kind of overgrown kid who has all these enthusiasms and wears his Hawaiian shirt and gets excited about the Ferrari and lives on a Robin Masters estate in Hawaii and has his buddies. I mean, he's almost like a kind of a teenager in a sense. He's like a very young energy, Magnum PI, but he's also has PTSD as a war veteran from the Vietnam War. He has lost people very close to him. And has, people have blown up in front of him. He's lost. And I think that DiNozzo as a kid watched Magnum PI and different than myself, I think DiNozzo had, his mother died. He had a father who was not present and he was running around. And I think that a character like Magnum PI. So when you see DiNozzo having it's not really silly to him. This is really like an emotional part of his childhood that made him feel safe. So when he talks about the buttons being made from a certain palm frond or whatever the hell it is, he knows the minutia and the details because it's meaningful to him. It's not just like, oh, I love that comic book and here's why. He
holds on to a piece of,
it's emotional. And that is a fun part for me of the DiNozzo journey, looking back at him and seeing that.
And it's very funny because what you guys listening don't know is that Michael has been saying this from the get-go. It's not like he's making it up now. I remember you talking about that from the get-go, about DiNozzo and about that and about the buttons and about all of those things were important to you then and they're important to you now.
Right. It can seem like I think.
So in a way, it's not as superficial as you sometimes say the character is, because I do think.
Well, the mistake is he can be sometimes.
Well, he can be, or he certainly shows that part of him as maybe a way of deflecting, which is very which is very much.
Well, he blows things up. And I also, again, in this episode, noticed the Forrest Hump porn videos.
Again.
And there's a kind of juvenile. There's a celebration of this, what we now obviously...
Which McGee doesn't recognize, and that's the funny part. McGee goes right over his head, and you just go, what do you mean, McGee? It's a bunch of people, naked. And
here's, DiNozzo is finds this stuff funny and titillating, but it's past its sell-by date in all kinds of ways. And he is still emotionally immature and trapped in this kind of... he's the age of a young man who should be getting married and starting a family and making conscious choices to like make his life. But instead, he's kind of locked in this place where he's excited to go on a date with the woman who turns out to be married.
Right.
Or he's excited that McGee's,
But the funny thing is, and this is something that we talked about earlier, is that he's about to go on a huge... This is early DiNozzo.
Right.
He's about to go in a huge sort of evolutionary trajectory, right? Which really does change him. It throws him in a totally different direction. Yeah. And his life, in many ways, is forever altered. Okay, so I want to make a little honorable mention to an actress called Merritt Weaver that we had on the show Switch.
Did you know he cheated on me on our wedding day? Our wedding day.
Wonderful.
She's gone on to have this amazing career. You saw her in a movie that you and I talked about a lot with Scarlett Johansson. Was it Marriage Story?
Mm.
Yeah. And it was a fantastic movie. And she plays the sister. She's just such a terrific actor. She's so present. She's so, and she's done a lot of stuff. But I remember the interrogation scene when she was in the car.
Mm-hmm.
You were on the phone with him when he was shot?
He couldn't remember pesto and it pissed me off. How stupid is that?
We've had really great actors, but I remember in that scene, she prepped for a little bit and then she was fully in that moment. And I'm sure she probably doesn't remember even doing NCIS, but I remember as an actor noticing this actress and being like, it's very hard to do because procedurals, as you know, like, of course, you're playing these sort of isolated moments in which you're supposed to have a lot of emotion and, someone's, the stakes are always pretty high. And she was honest. She never overplayed it. She didn't under it. It was very honest. And I remember thinking, like, she's really special.
And the crazy thing about it is she's lying through her teeth because she's a killer.
Honey, it's our anniversary.
Right. And it's so innocent.
So she fooled Ziva David.
Well, but I thought she was just terrific. And so I just wanted to say that because speaking about all the people that go through our...
Bravo, Merritt Weaver.
Bravo. Yeah. And thank you for being a part of our NCIS family. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll show up here. Maybe one day. Which brings us to our guest today.
Daniela Ruah.
Daniela Ruah.
Oh, Danny.
NCIS Los Angeles.
Yeah. Kensi.
Yeah. Kensi Blye.
It's a very important... You're not going to want to miss a moment of this.
Yeah. She's not only a very neat person, really smart, worked on NCIS for 14 years, and is now transitioning into directing.
Let's share the interview with everybody.
Stay tuned.
Some would say that is a difficult working environment.
I am not afraid of change. I am not afraid of anything. Deeks, I will come in there and kick your ass. Federal agents, stop!
In case you haven't noticed, this isn't just what I do. This is who I am.
Federal agents. In fact, they are the only part of his body that doesn't stink.
You're not getting away. Again.
What, no thanks for saving your ass?
My ass didn't need saving.
Sounds like you on a second date.
Nothing you'll ever have to worry about.
Tango down.
This is Michael Weatherly.
Oh, and this is Cote DePablo.
And we have a very special guest here today.
Daniela Ruah from NCIS LA.
And from the DGA.
And the DGA.
Oh, wow. Recently exploring
since
her
2020.
new talent directing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty recent.
Lots of
it's
things
very recent.
to do.
I don't know. It feels
I
like
think
it
so.
was years and years ago.
Heck, if I had developed a new talent by 2020, I'd be talking about it all over.
By the way, Michael, good luck getting a word in with the two of us.
I know.
Just
But
saying.
no, I'm totally good. Here's my goal.
You're talking over him.
Here's
He's like,
my goal.
yeah.
Yes, you have met my wife.
I have.
By the way, she says hello.
Yeah.
The doc loves both of you ladies so much. And I was just on the phone FaceTiming, and she's like, you're so lucky. This is like your job is that you get to go and have these cool conversations with people. And I was like, well, she does some pretty cool stuff.
This is a great question because where you're from, and you and I have this in common, we grew up
in a different country. Yes, we did.
Different language.
Yes, we did.
Different cultural references.
A lot of different cultural references.
Okay, so where are you from?
So I was born in Boston, but raised in Portugal. My parents
You were born in Boston?
I was.
I've been cheated.
Well, because my parents...
I thought you were born in Lisbon. I was like, she's definitely...
I wasn't. Luckily for passport and citizenship purposes, wanting to pursue the creative career and coming to the U.S., I didn't have to deal with all the paperwork and all the legality. So that was the great part about that. But it was a complete coincidence. My parents were both studying in the U.S. They came over married. My dad was doing his residency at Tufts. My mom was doing her...
Dad is a doctor.
My dad is a retired surgeon, ENT surgeon, yep. And he was doing his residency at Tufts. And then my mom was doing her master's in audiology at Northeastern. And
Pretty
so...
smart people.
Very smart. I come from a very academic family. So when I'm like, I want to act and dance and prance around on stage with sparkly things, they're like, actually, we totally support that, which was great.
We support that. It's because you dropped her on her head when she was a baby.
No, actually, they supported, and this is, by the way, I come from a very traditional family too. Most of the support came from the idea of absolute not knowing what that world was. I do think sheer ignorance was such a buffer. It was just like, you want to do what? Oh, that sounds great.
That's okay. Yeah. Yes, it was more because I think especially my dad and my grandfather, they just loved watching action shows and action movies and everything. So when I sort of gravitated towards doing those kind of things, I had no idea that I would be on a procedural, obviously, when I came to the U.S. But that's the stuff we watched. We watched NCIS and we watched CSI and all the CSIs and we watched Criminal Minds before I even moved to the U.S.
But you understood sort of the expectation. So when I met Don Belisario to audition, to talk about NCIS, I grew up on Magnum PI and I grew up on his voice. And, showrunners and show creators, when they are involved in the DNA and creation of a show, and as Don was creating NCIS, part of, I think, that conversation that we were having was me showing him that I knew his voice. And that made him comfortable because he was going to ask me to do crazy stuff. Like, we're going to go from extremely silly stuff to extremely serious stuff with no transition at all, just a cut. Do you look back at your, like, for instance, and we'll go to the genesis of the creative.
I want to know about dance.
I know.
I'm dying to know about dance.
When you started and the NCIS LA with the 2 embedded episodes
with you guys,
right?
Yes.
Which, by the way, I was distraught that none of my scenes were with either one of you. And I have to tell you the story because
I'm kidding. I don't think so. We have nothing to do with it. It was just.
But I met you guys at the table read, right? So obviously you were still in the episode. You just didn't have any interactions with us. And I was distraught at that. And I don't know if you guys remember, but the first scene that I heard you guys play in the table read was a scene where you were like banter arguing with each other. And you kind of, I don't remember if it was supposed to be the way you did it at the table read or if you guys were just having fun because it's a new crowd and you had an audience. But it was like you were yelling at each other over the table. And I just remember being like, this is so cool. This is so cool.
That was all planned.
They are cool. Right? I want to be a part of their coolness. And then I had no scenes with either one of you guys. And
we talked about it right before the read through.
Did you really?
Like, oh yeah. Because the read throughs were, you read and you do your thing. And,
well, do the jokes work or not?
Basically. Sure. But we were like, we're meeting the new guys. Let's step it up. Let's step up to the plate.
But I'm curious if you had anyone or anything, or like whether it was a performance in a film, or if you were thinking the one thing I don't want to do is this. How did your character? Like, where did Kensi come from?
So I have to. There's a couple of stories that go with that question. The first one was I really botched my first audition. No joke. And it's like, well, you got the part. It's like, yeah, but I almost didn't. So my first audition, I was still living in New York, and I had a ginormous speech, which I did, and then I screwed up towards the end, and the casting director was really nice, and she's like, try again, but then I got nervous, and so I kept screwing up this speech earlier in this speech, and she's like, you know what, we'll cut it together. And I was like, okay. And it was an action sequence, so the room was small, it was really weird, like, the whole thing was very bizarre, and I walked out, and I literally, unemotionally, ripped up the side, and I was like, well, that was a freaking doozy, like, that didn't work out, and it was pilot season, so I was auditioning for a bunch of stuff at the same time, like, you're just like, it's just one more, right? And the funny thing too, I was like, CBS has Criminal Minds, the CSIs, NCIS. Like, there's no way they're going to pick up another procedural. Like, there's no way.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. Anyway, so I walked out of there really, really genuinely thinking like, okay, that was it. On to the next. I had other auditions that day that I was like, nailed it. Never even got a call back.
Right.
Anyway.
Ain't that the way?
Ain't that the way, right? Yeah. And so, anyway, I got a call back to my complete surprise. They flew me out to LA because that callback was already like the studio audition and all that stuff. And that in that one I did do well and I felt good and anyway, it went well, obviously got the part. But when we were shooting the pilots with you guys, I remember asking Shane Brennan, who was the creator of our show, and I was like, how did I make it past that first audition? And he was like, well, he's like, you kind of got lucky because they sent it to me on a very, very small video that I couldn't really see very well, but you just had this like international, energy and vibe, which is what we wanted for the character. And so we gave you another shot. So when you say, who is Kensi? How do you create that? When he told me that they had liked the international, not quite from here, not quite not from here vibe I had, I was like, okay, then let's go with that. Right. So that was one of the first hints of what they were looking for. And then the other thing is there was a complete actual transformation. And this, I will add Eric into this, because when they said she's strong, she's smart, she's powerful, she's this, she's that, I thought I had to act with a stick up my ass. I was like, if she's strong and she's smart, she can't be funny, she can't goof around, she's got to have a straight back. And it affected every part of my delivery, every part of my body language. And I just thought that smart and tough meant a very specific thing. And then Eric
But you
joined.
are strong and smart, and you didn't
But as a
walk off.
40-year-old woman, I now understand that. Like I don't have to show my power because I am it, right? And I say this with no arrogance. I feel confident in who I am as a person and my journey in life. Anyway, Eric joined our show, end of season 1, beginning of season 2, he became a regular. And he was the funny guy, and he would improv, and he would try to make me laugh. And I was still living in that I don't laugh at silly things persona. And Shane Brennan pulled me aside and he said, the audience likes Kensi because she's been on the show for a year now. And he's like, if you react the way you're reacting to Deeks, the audience is not going to like him and you're kind of an asshole. So you got to start, even if you don't like him to his face, if you just crack a smile when he walks away, now the audience is with you and they're with him. And now we're starting to create something. And it was that led me to be like, oh, and I'm such a goofball as a person that it was a challenge to keep it straight.
Right.
And so
once you start
gave you the
letting
freedom.
Yeah,
once you start letting yourself into the work more,
you
start to
freeing
enjoy
myself
it.
up. Yeah.
Right.
Started enjoying, I was already enjoying it because it was a job, right? But then I actually, internally started enjoying it. And also Eric and I had chemistry the way you two have chemistry. So it became
Was
easy
that
to
from the
laugh
beginning,
at.
by the way? Because
Yes.
that's actually like a question that.
Yeah.
So it was
definitely
from the very beginning. And was it always like, hey, you guys, this is going to go romantic? Or was it just like we had chemistry and then it went there? Or
I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I don't know what they were planning when they brought him on, but I've told this story many times before, but I'll say it quickly here, but like our first table read, I thought I was going to be really smart because I didn't know how quick he was, because he's very similar to you, Michael, in that sense. Like I didn't know he was like going to be quick on the improv and on his toes with the comebacks because he's got a brother who's around the same age and they're both alpha and I was a single child. So I have the thing that I create right there and then, but I have no retaliation if you come back with something too.
Right.
I have no thick skin. So I went up to him, meeting him for the very first time in the table read. And I was like, so I hear Deeks is supposed to be like muscly and tanned. What are you going to do about it? First thing I ever say to him, not even a hello. Then he looks at me, he's like, I hear Kensi's supposed to be smart and pretty. What are you going to do about that? And I was like, and I had no comeback, no nothing, but it sort of started what these characters were going to be. And I was like, I have no comeback, but that's really funny.
Yeah.
And that's just,
and that's where it was born.
and that was kind of where it was born, is me thinking I'm a smart ass and really no.
I was the queen of that. I would be so excited that you do remember there was one instance.
Oh, you got to say it.
Well, there was a line that was supposed to just be thrown away. He was a good agent. It was it was just
About
it was
an agent
just
who
one of-
died.
Somebody died and I don't know it. It could be so many different things, but it was like Gibbs walking away and I was like sitting in my desk or something. And I just had to stand up and say something like he was a good agent. And at that moment I was like, well, make a choice, So it's like,
make a choice. Yeah.
make a choice. And I was like, and I'm going to make it earnest and loud.
Oh,
so it was just
so
an
loud.
atrocious.
It was so
Please, what did you do?
It was just an
Just give it to
atrocious.
us.
Just he was a good agent. It was awful.
Why not supposed to
And
be
as
thrown
soon
away?
as I did it, I was like, oh, somehow it just didn't
And
land.
that's the one that aired.
No, it
And-
didn't.
and that's-
You guys
Can I go again?
started
Nope, no
dying laughing.
All we could say to her,
It was
like,
just like, wow, you fully committed.
he was a good agent.
And it was just so like,
It was
and
like
I remember
Katharine
doing
Hepburn
it like,
meets.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was a lot.
She was
I'm
my
telling
favorite.
you, kid, it was a good agent.
Yeah, he was a good agent.
was a good
Fully
agent.
committed.
To an
She was-
insane
you
asylum.
can't accuse me of not being fully committed, especially early
Ever
on.
with anything.
Oh no.
Especially early on.
Okay, weapons. Did you know how to?
Did we even answer any of the previous
No,
questions?
dance,
I don't
dance,
know.
No, did you know how to handle? Had you handled firearms before?
No.
Okay, so
No, the
you-
first time I ever saw a gun in person or even touched
Did you
a gun.
freak out?
I didn't freak out, but I definitely, I didn't grow up in the United States where gun culture is a thing. So when I came here and I have like a real gun in front of me for the first time, it was fascination. It's like, wow, this is something I've only ever seen on TV before or in movies. And I'm doing a TV show, so everything sort of fit in that sense. And then when before you fire a gun for the very first time in your life, you have no idea what that recoil is going to feel like,
Oh, yeah.
So It's definitely nerve-wracking.
And
And then
the
you do it
safety
and you're like,
and the
okay.
safety of it. And, you know,
Yeah.
now it's changed over time. And I know on LA, you guys did the muzzle flash would be added digitally later. They started doing that, right? Didn't they? I heard in big, because I did a
It
big.
depends. Like you couldn't fire a weapon next to a school, for example. So if we were
Right.
if we were having a shootout on a street and there was a school nearby, you were not allowed to fire those guns. We had to not even spark plugs. We would just have to
But
fake the recoil
those
with our hands. Yeah.
property departments and the people who handle those weapons, you know, obviously we had like a recent huge tragedy, but throughout the history of cinema and television, there have been tragedies, you know, time and time again. And sometimes it's people are fooling around. Which you cannot do on a set. But sometimes, like Emily Wickersham had never fired a gun, and she was standing behind me to the left, and
didn't know that the shell flies to the right.
To the right, and also the muzzle, that it was a full load, and so I felt it rip right through the went, and I was like, and it was like smoking. I was like, oh. That was awfully close, you know, and she was mortified, but, it was the kind of thing.
Can you talk about that moment? Because I think for actors and certainly people listening, that when you don't know and you're caught in those moments, those can be really scary moments and you feel
it's the adrenaline that's the dangerous thing. It's you know, you don't realize that just a little pressure from your finger
That's enough.
can fire the weapon. You don't realize that, you know, when the armorer comes up to you and says, we're going to use quarter loads, half loads, three-quarter load, full loads, that's important to know.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we had a huge shootout in this episode where we were in a storage container for like the whole episode.
Oh, yes.
God,
and
boxed in.
That's
Cody
the echo is
boxed
makes
in,
it
but she
so
forgot to put ear protection in right before.
Firing a bullet in here, I mean, it's bound to ricochet.
I've done that before. I did that one time, and it was
One
we had
time.
we had the
in
big
metal.
M4s, and it
machine
luckily
gun
we were
fire.
outside. Machine gun fire. We were outside, and the same thing happened. I forgot to put my earplugs in, and there was so many stunts and so many things happening at once that I realized it right before they called action. And I was like, if I stop everything now, there's just too many things in motion.
Yeah.
Just suck it up. So I knew it was coming, and I was not.
So
it was not fun.
The funniest thing now,
I appreciate military guys listening.
when you try
Their
to
hearing loss.
explain to the writers and the director, so there, you know, there's like a half a page of dialogue before the gun battle ensues.
Yeah.
But you have ear protection in,
Oh, it's so weird.
and so you can't.
Ah!
What did you, so suddenly you
reading
have
lips,
everyone
yeah.
talking to each other like this while we're stealthily trying to sneak up on the bad guy's lair.
Guys, we have to be quiet. She's like, oh.
Why are you always making jokes at the wrong time? Oh, Marty Deeks. and then, you know, the scripts, and then you have bang, 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 bang. And
Oh, those
you,
are my favorites.
you have to
Bang, 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 bang.
bang, bang. Okay, let's talk about dance. We've done
Oh,
it.
God, okay.
You
All right,
started dancing when you were what?
So I, like any little girl, you know, my mom put me in dance classes when I was very young. I was always a show off. I was always like either putting my stuffed animals as an audience in front of me, or I would force I had no siblings. So I really needed attention from the adults in the room. And so I would just go plan a choreography or do something or make up a song and just make people listen to it and whatnot. And so that sort of sense of enjoying having an audience has been with me, I think, since the day I was born. It's just part of me. And so I think my parents recognized that. So I did the dance classes and I did the theater classes once a week, and that, until things just sort of escalated where they felt a little bit more serious. And then it became like a career choice. When I was a teenager, I was like, I think this is what I want to do for a living. So when I do search for colleges, this is going to be the path. And my parents were like, great. They never criticized any part of my creative needs. All they said was like, this is your choice, which means you have to go as hard as you can. Yeah. Like, yes, mistakes happen. Yes, failures happen. That we don't care about that stuff, but you cannot half-ass anything because this is your choice. And so
that's such a great piece of advice.
That just answered one of my
school,
questions about how you survived 15 years?
14.
14
years of the show. Yeah,
because
yeah.
You have to have a work ethic that comes from like Mount Olympus.
Well, where did that work ethic come from? You and I have this in common. Soap operas.
Soaps.
Did you ever do
soaps?
I did. That's how I started. Telenovelas in Portugal. I did 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, so they're not like here where they last a long time. They're more like the Central and South American soap operas that they're on for a year and a bit, and then they kind of they end and you sort of transition to a different role in a different soap. And like 40 scenes a day. And you know what I mean? Like you're going home completely exhausted, learning a bunch of lines. And in that sense, I was more like you at that time, I think, where it's like you have to keep the context of the scene, but it was near impossible to learn word for word because it was just too much to learn overnight.
And you have to wake up the next day and do it again.
Yes.
And then
I was in high school, so I was going to school, finishing at 3:30, and then working until 3 a.m. and then doing homework in between because we didn't have the same
thing.
You did the same thing.
I was doing the same thing. I wasn't doing soaps, but I had a little TV show.
Yeah, but it taught me it's like you just got to do your homework when you can, as opposed to I'm tired, I'm going to do something else, and then I'll do it later. There's no later. Yeah, like you have to do it now, otherwise the thing that you want to, you know. So that in that sense, it was great work ethic, and that definitely carried into NCIS to answer your original question. And so, yeah, that sort of was there in the beginning. But then the family, like you guys know, the people that you hang out with, the environment, the cast, the crew, like everything just becomes home.
And yeah, you guys had a really nice one. You guys had a really fun
And the
set.
Paramount lot is a little different than our Santa
No, I mean,
Clarita.
are you kidding me?
Oh, you said that as if you guys did it.
No. We
We
had a family for sure.
We were
but
what I called Moonbase Alpha. People were like, "Where do you shoot your show?" And I'd say, "Well, you see the sun? If you fly directly towards the sun and just before you incinerate, you're in Santa Clarita because it's literally like 100.
Yeah, you guys were in a lot. I mean, you guys had the proper, like, you know, you were there.
That was like
mingling with other people,
I
other
loved
actors.
going to the Paramount lot or the Universal.
Last week, and I loved every moment of it.
I know, but
could not find my way through those stages, though. I'll be honest with you, I kept getting lost.
So let's give this context. Daniela Ruah has just directed an episode of The Mothership.
Yes.
And you're working with our beautiful, wonderful Sean Murray and Brian Deason and Gary Cole and all the new people, Wilmer and everybody that I never got to work with. You actually did do a little bit of work.
I did a little bit of work, and they were, you know.
But most of your stuff on that was with Harmon.
And Emily.
Emily
was still
Emily
there.
as well, yeah.
Right. But that, you know, I was just going to say that I think it took me 13 years before the switch went on where I was able to add it all together.
What does that mean?
I think that in the beginning, I would be in the bathroom at the soap opera studio, so nervous, just palms sweating every time we were getting ready to go tape. And just
Mom
like,
spaghetti.
I'm just sweating, just like terrible stomach problems, like so nervous every day. And then I would finish work and I would walk home because I wasn't going to pay for a taxi and I didn't want to take the subway because I needed to scream. So I would walk down 10th Avenue and just yell at the top of my lungs because I was so frustrated how bad I was. And then I would get all the way home and go through this self-loathing, knowing that it took about 40 minutes to walk home. I lived on 26th Street. And then I would sit with my script for the next day. I'd be like, I'm going to fucking do this better. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better.
Who made you feel that you weren't good enough in those moments?
Everyone I worked with. Everyone. No, I mean.
Really?
You know, I could feel, I got a lot of hints. Celeste Holm played my Aunt Isabel on Loving, and she took me to her dressing room. She had her Academy Award on her dressing table. And she said, you clearly don't watch the show. And I said, well, yeah, I don't know. It's a soap opera. And she goes, that is not the attitude of success. You must know this show better than anything you've ever known. You must live this. These stories are the most important thing in your life. And I was like, well, and she said, what is your dialogue? Your dialogue is simply reiterating all of the stories of these people. Trisha, trucker, what are you doing here? I thought you were at the mountain cabin with the stolen diamonds. You know, it's all just plot and exposition.
Yeah,
but if you don't know it and you're memorizing it, and she said this great thing to me. She was like, tell me about how many siblings you had growing up. And I was like, oh, well, I had 3 half-sisters and a full brother, but 2 half-sisters from my father's first marriage and a half-sister from my mother's first marriage. And
now you're regurgitating information.
And then she goes, what you just did is what you should do when you're on the show. So she gave me this one piece, which was like, it's got to be your story that you're telling and your perception of the story.
But it's interesting. Like, that's a wonderful lesson.
It was great.
It's an amazing lesson. And what a great thing to have somebody sit you down and actually have that. Well, she probably did it in a nice way, or did you feel attacked?
No, she was very direct. But
But she's probably very protective over her.
She wanted, I was
that's her home.
22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
She was like, if this guy doesn't get it together, he's gonna,
exactly.
he's gonna blow the job.
She was funny and obviously like an extraordinarily huge career, very talented. But two things Dennis Smith taught me, and we will be talking to him on this podcast very soon. Or if these air.
By the way, Dennis Smith is the director who's directed the most amount of NCIS franchise episodes of all time. He's
How
got
many do you know?
over 100.
Yeah.
He's done over 100. So Dennis Smith was a regular director on our show, a regular director on NCIS.
4 seasons.
He's and he started off as a camera operator, then he became a director photographer, cinematographer, and then eventually worked his way up to directing. I was just telling the audience at home, so they get a reference of Dennis is a home.
No,
you know.
I mean, he's
but he knows that if so you bring in a cast, especially if it's a squad room or something where everyone's kind of, we know what this is, and everyone's kind of not really looked at their dialogue much. You rehearse it. Let's just
Talk
read.
About you, Michael. We used to look at.
Let's just read the words, and then let's just read the words, and then.
And I just got off your show, and they all knew their lines. Don't say that. You. You
know, they sort of knew their lines. So you can get into a thing, but when you read it and then you read it again and then you rehearse it again and then you rehearse it like a fifth time, you're starting to lay in these tracks and the roads, and you're letting the crew watch things, and so there's a muscle memory that starts to come in. So you're not thinking about reaching for this with the right. You're like, that this is how you reach for the cup, or you say that line, and then once you know it, you go away and you come back, and Dennis does this other trick, which is no rehearsal. Let's just shoot the rehearsal.
Oh, yes.
And then you find all this stuff that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And all this kind of magic happens. Robert Wagner, when he would
play your dad, right?
Played dad on the mothership. The first time we were loading into this elevator together, he said, right before they called action, he said, let's show him the magic. And I was like, let's show him the magic. That's amazing. Because it is a magic trick, right? If you do it correctly.
Yeah.
And then, the greatest compliment that I ever could receive from anyone who didn't know me, who would watch the show, and then I would meet them, they'd be like, you're just like your character. Or it looks like you're not even acting. And you just play yourself. And even some people that I do know would say, God, it's weird. You're just like completely yourself. When I watch it, I don't think that at all, because I can see everything I'm doing, and I can see that I'm activating all kinds of stuff that's fake. But the magic trick is complete. And if somebody thinks that felt and looked real, I mean, our laughter was always real.
I mean, it was impossible.
But it's very hard to laugh for real.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's so bad. And especially when you're working with Eric Olsen.
No, he sucks. He's not funny at
all. So
he told the stories. We
Has he been here already?
Oh,
yes.
we had him, and he told the stories about you and he. And
he said that there would be, for instance,
a funny game that you guys played, which was who took the last line.
Oh God, yeah. No, it's not who took the last line. It was written as me, and he would improvise something at the end, which was of course funny. So then I knew they would use it in the edit, and so I was like, I have the last line, for crying out loud! Like, stop saying something after
and then
the scene
he would
is done.
say that you would try to top it, and that it was
no. But I can't improvise for shit. I'm an only child. I have no capacity.
Confessions, and they just
we may even do split screen. We're gonna do split screen. We're going to do it.
Well, no, but I got to tell you, and the funny thing is like, I couldn't even hide why I wanted to maintain my last line as was written. He's like, but why do you want to get the last line? He was like trying to provoke something, to continue on with the joke. And I was like, because I want to be the last face people see before we cut to commercial. And he's like, well, at least you're being honest about it. I was like, of course I'm being honest. Why else would I want the last line in the scene?
It's called a tag.
Exactly. And I was like, so this one time, it became obviously a running joke between us. And I have to tell you, so there was this one thing, it was like an act out, and these guys, they come screeching, we have our guns out, and we're like, get out of the car, all this stuff. And my last line is, out of the car, hands up, get down on your knees, now. And we did it. And we're there like, chest breathing hard, all this stuff, like this. And then he takes a beat after my last line. And he goes, you heard the lady. And I was like, God dang it, Eric. And of course they left it in the cut, and it works perfectly. But I was like, Eric, shh.
So you were just doing something
that is,
we have everybody do, really.
Oh,
everyone here has a gun face.
Did I just make mine?
Yeah, it was good.
It was really good. No, I don't. You have a gun face.
Show me your gun face again.
No. We need her gun face.
I know, but show me yours first. I mean, it's so
it's a
good.
side eye.
Right. Side
Oh,
eye.
it's a side-eye gun face.
Mine
sure.
is mouth slightly ajar.
And by the way, these gun faces never change. Like, no matter what happens, it's always gun face.
Oh,
Sean-
no.
Yeah.
Sean
Blue
Murray
steel.
has one, which the tongue goes under the lip. It goes,
It's this.
it's so good.
He looks like he's wearing a mouth guard. And then Echo showed us the brow, the Cro-Magnon, the
Cro-Magnon.
like through the eyebrows.
Yeah. So now we're asking
know what-
Daniela Ruah, like
Right.
what her gun face
I have to
is.
do it without thinking, otherwise I'll overthink it.
So say the line.
There it
Say the
is.
line you just said. Say the line you just said.
Down on the ground, hands up.
Yeah, it's good. You got to do it. Got to do it with the.
The
Okay.
finger pointing down.
Just down on the ground. No, I will tell you, I don't know what my gun face is. That's so funny. I'll have to do it like out of the
No, that
blue
was
to
good.
remember it. No, but it's, I know that I didn't.
Oh,
I
I've
was
seen
always
you in the
told
opening
you don't go
titles.
with one eye. You always keep both eyes open. So I remember that was a big one. And then I always remember, like, don't blink when you fire the weapon.
That's so
and
hard. It's
sometimes
impossible.
That's almost impossible.
Well, sometimes we'd play it back and I would manage occasionally. But the problem is that the 9mm SIG that I would use, sometime once in a while, you'd feel something fire
Yes.
back in your direction. You guys know this, right? And so our prop guys figured out that if you put a little black tape, like right where the, I mean, it's such a rookie now, like the thing that you pull back to cock the gun.
Oh, come on, honey. You know.
Hammer.
The hammer. Thank you. Sorry.
I didn't
Oh my
wanna-
God.
I always-
Sorry.
I always-
the hammer. The
Back to
hammer.
one.
And it was just on either side of the hammer, and then I wouldn't get that in my eyeballs. But yeah.
Which, by the way, probably added to your luscious gun face.
Yeah.
It didn't get in the way, meaning like you knew nothing was going to jump at you. So you secured that. You were just confident in that gun face.
I'll be honest with you. I was more afraid of those shells than anything else. I had to do the scene where I was undercover once, and it was an episode. We were fighting in the gunfight in a warehouse, and it was with a guest actor. Oh my gosh, it was with McMahon from the WWE.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we were in a scene together, big shootout, all this stuff. And I was wearing itty bitty shorts like Daisy Dukes because I was whatever. I was undercover.
That's what you do.
Yes, that's what one does. And I'm going to do it here. And I was like crouched down behind a container like this, and I had my gun, and I kind of like reach up like this and fire. And when I bend back down, I pinned a shell like a hot shell, like between the bottom of my leg and my thigh. And they called
You
cut.
still
And I was
have
like,
that scar? You still have that scar?
I don't, but for a long time I had like a scab.
Do you remember when I got my?
Can we talk
my,
about scars from the
show?
know?
Do you remember
from the show?
when I got my thumb caught in the door when we were shooting down in the garage?
Yes.
And I waited until the end of the take.
Yes.
And they said cut.
Trained.
And then
trained professional.
I lost that nail. I lost that. It was a very big, dark, like it was. That was.
I remember that so clearly.
Yeah, but I had to. I knew not to disrupt because there was a tag.
Yes.
There was like a line,
like a big,
and it was a big thing. And I knew that it,
came off
like
of
just like you,
action.
if I screwed it up before they said cut, we would have to do it again.
Right,
And I knew
but
I might be missing the top of my finger, right? Because when you get
and the reset is just so it is expensive and it's lengthy.
especially if I'm missing
well,
part of
when
my
you have
hand.
when you have like it's like, oh, you have a big vehicle coming in from that side of the parking garage, another one's coming in from behind camera, and then you have two guys coming, like when there's
You're
a lot
like,
of
I'm
action
not gonna
and
mess
stunt
this
guys.
up.
Yeah, everybody to reset is a nightmare. So good on you. But
Okay.
at the same time, I remember you being like, no big. You were smiling, but you were also like sweating beads. I remember this clearly. Humor was your diffuser in that moment.
Oh, humor's always been his diffuser.
Yeah.
He
So
could be going through the worst and he's still cracking a joke and you're like, I know you're crying inside.
I'm in a lot of therapy about that right now, and it's working. So what happened when you stopped? Like, so take me in the way back Ruah machine.
But before you stop, because 14 years is 14 years.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, you got married, you had children.
Yes.
You want to know how much was she making at the last?
No, we had those conversations.
Her and I
Trust
talked about
me.
that
We
stuff
talked
off
about all of
camera.
that.
Yeah, we're not
going to divulge that.
By the way, the first, I'm going to rewind back in our conversation. So other than watching you two at that table read, and don't forget your question because I want to come back to whatever you're going to ask. But I asked you specifically because I understood that I was kind of like, your equivalent, if you will, on our show.
Course. And I'm going to ask you what you thought with
female,
Ziva and
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm almost jealous because I'm Jewish and you were playing the Israeli and I was like, dang it, that part's taken. But I just remember saying like, what's your advice for somebody who's going to start a potentially long run on a show? And you said two things that I abided by. by the way. Save your money. Don't take too long in hair and makeup. And to this day, I was like 45 minutes in hair and makeup, and that's when it wasn't 30. I was like, just put it up in a ponytail. Just
Yeah. And the great thing about Daniela, we didn't see each other a lot, but the times we did see each other, it was like
it's very connecting.
Not only very connecting, but it was like it was no BS. There wasn't any kind of pretense. It was like, let's go straight to it.
Yeah,
you know. And I'd say, listen, I'm the kind of person that you could have a real honest relationship with, and not only that, shoot, like. Ask any question you want because I'm going to give you the answer. I'm not going to give you the political answer. I'm not going to give you
you know, such a wonderful open book. And I'm not kidding, Cody. Like I really took a lot of your advice. I think it's
really important. And especially when you're working with other women, because we really have to, especially back then, you know, we were
very different. It's very different now.
Very different
even
world,
from 10 years ago. Yeah.
You know, but back then I felt like if we didn't have that camaraderie, like who would have your back?
And a male-dominated sort of.
Are you interrupting us?
World.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean,
Michael.
But like because you got Cool J and Chris and you've got it like.
That's a lot of alpha males.
And Shane is the showrunner.
Alpha males.
Most of the writers are sort of coming from this male kind of jock or jocular perspective. I mean, it's been surprising listening and watching these first episodes because there's so many references to like online porn and all this kind of like, it's silly, funny, juvenile, you know, it's a very immature kind of.
But it probably didn't phase you at the time either, because that's just how we all. That's just that was.
Well, and it was a Girls Gone Wild era of America too.
I feel like I was so secure in who I was, especially back then.
Yeah.
That all of it was just a part of a storyline. It had nothing to do with me. I never felt it as anything like that. But you and I had a lot of conversations in which you were asking very honest questions, and I was. And you know, funny enough, I remember when Sasha Alexander and I crossed episodes. She did something that was really cool. And she didn't know me, but she was leaving. And she had her reasons, which we all have to respect.
Sure.
And at the time, I didn't understand why people would leave or, you know, and then, of course,
opportunity and stuff.
Well, but you know, people have their own reasons. And that needs to be respected. But she went to my trailer and I was sitting down and she came up to me and she sort of touched my face in a very sort of sweet, like, sweet way. And then she said something along the lines of, be strong. She just said, be strong. And I remember thinking, like, what does that mean? But the way she said it was so cool that I understood that as a woman, she was sending me a message. And not only that, it was done in a loving way. Yeah. It wasn't done like, be strong.
Yeah, you know, like it was not condescending, not bossy, not anything.
There was no pretense. There was no like, you know, there was nothing
from human to human, from woman to woman. Yeah.
You know, and so I feel that as a woman, things have been informed by other women around me. My mom was a huge one for me.
Oh yeah, me
too. She was anytime she could help, she would help. You know, and so I felt very much responsible for that. And when you and I had conversations, I just made a point to always give you any kind of information that could help you in the future.
And you did. You did, definitely. And it's so funny that you mentioned your mom, how that was a huge influence. Like, my mom was a huge influence for me,
and
too.
Your mom's a cool lady.
My mom's cool, and she's fun. And she was like the perfect example of what I could be as worker woman mom. And the balance between those things. And I know that everything I've done to this day as a worker, as a woman, and as a mom has been because she showed me that. She showed me it was possible.
It's time to play a little game called Name That Tool. Michael Weatherly, I know you have thoughts right now. I'm racing through that little brain.
I just want to name the tool.
While working on NCIS, you encountered a lot of technical objects. Do you remember what they all are? Question 1. Which device is used by forensic experts to analyze fingerprints at a crime scene? A. Spectrophotometer.
Nope.
Spectrometer.
No, that's not it.
It's not it.
Fuming wand. Luminol sprayer.
Nope, that's for blood.
That's for blood.
Electrophoresis machine.
An electrolysis machine?
That's for hair
to
removal.
Get rid of the...
That's for hair removal.
Well, we didn't do forensics on our show, so I don't have the...
Electrophoresis.
I'm going to say D.
No, it's not luminol. I'm trying to think because I do know that you can use super glue to lift a fingerprint.
Oh, it's the fog one. It's the fog. Whatever that fog. What was the fog one?
No, it's the one that sounds like something from Harry Potter.
Which one is that? The electrolysis?
The wand.
Yeah, because it's a fumes wand. That's why I said. That's what I said.
That's what I meant by
fumes. The super glue fumes.
Okay, so you got it right.
That's what I
You
said.
said fumes. You said fumes. So you got that
because
right.
I knew the super glue and the thing. Yeah.
All right, question 2. Question 2? What's wrong with the accent today? I feel like I'm all over. Question 2. What device do medical examiners? I can't read.
We are
you
never.
Read it.
Do you want me to ask
no
you
more CBD for you.
Oh God, I'm so relaxed. What device do medical examiners use to determine the chemical composition of unknown substances found in a body during an autopsy?
Okay. Choices.
Spectrometer. I can't read this. Jeff, why do you write this
I know, but
stuff?
just because we want to hear you.
Cytometer.
Okay, that would be it because that has to do with blood. That's it.
Stethoscope. I know that one.
No.
Pulse oximeter.
No, it's the hemo something because that's blood.
Pulse oximeter is something you put on the end of your finger to.
Pulse oximeter. I didn't get that's what she said.
No, it's a gas.
I worked with her for a long time.
Chromatograph. What does that mean? I missed it altogether. You see, this is what happens when you've got my mind stuck on these words.
It's the number 2. It's the number 2.
Where's Polly Perrette when we need her?
Well, she could say these things in her sleep.
Oh, spectrometer. That.
It's number 2. Whatever number 2 was.
No, it's not. It's A. It's A. It's A.
What's
Question
A?
3.
Okay.
I can't say it.
We got it wrong. It's fine. O for O. Let's go.
Your laughing always kills me. You know which one's the best laugh of your... my favorite one of your laughs is the quiet one when you go dead silent and you go in.
Oh yeah. Well,
and you go red and in. It goes like that. That was my favorite. My favorite. So question number 4. What is the name of the tool used to measure the depth of a gunshot wound during an autopsy?
A rod. Sorry.
Hi, 911. I'd like to report a crime. No, there's been a butchering of the English language. We're at the Spotify studios.
B, calipers. C, bullet probe. D, vernier scale.
Let's just say bullet probe.
You got it. God, you're good, Sherry. You got 1 out of 4. That's fantastic.
I hope that you enjoyed coming here.
I loved it. I almost want to be like, you can go home. We're just going to keep hanging out and go for a glass of wine.
Next season, you have to come back if we do another one, and we'll do cocktails. We'll tape at night.
Let's do kind of like a drunk history thing.
No. We don't do this now.
And then season 3 will be the psilocybin season. Everyone will be like, is that... I'm seeing patterns.
I don't know what psilocybin is.
Mushrooms.
Oh.
He talks about that a lot, by the way. Like, I have no idea why.
Then we'll do an ayahuasca season.
The ayahuasca special.
Yeah. Then the DMT season. We'll just go straight to the God drug.
Oh my God.
It's been such a nice way to spend an afternoon with you guys.
I love this.
Can I just take a minute?
Please take a minute. A little breath. You feel the feels.
I feel emotionally full. I feel sated.
Satiated.
Yes. I feel I have satiety. It's a sense of satiety. I think that is a 100% put together human, Dani Ruah.
I think she's a really cool lady.
With so many things ahead in the future.
Totally. And the greatest thing is that she's kind of, she's got all this stuff at home kind of figured out. And to me, that's just such a plus.
Yeah.
That she's able to have that as a solid foundation. And then she's able to have these dreams that she's still,
accessing. Yeah.
Totally.
Manifesting. Yeah. She's a manifester.
And she's quick. She's quick.
Oh, yeah. And, if only she just were a little more honest. Yeah. She is one honest lady. You're not sneaking anything.
And by the way, we like honesty.
We like honesty, and
if you come over here, we want you to show us a little something.
Show us the truth.
Yeah. Show us all. We like it, warts and all.
As Robert Wagner said when we were sitting down with our groaning smorgasbord and a glass of wine, we're going to get a little drunk and tell each other the truth.
Ooh.
Hello.
Right. So fan questions. Did any actors or actresses inspire you to pursue acting when you were growing up? My God.
Yes. So I probably talked about this a bunch, but Steve Martin, Robin Williams, that was in, Robin Williams, Mork and Mindy was one of my first favorite TV shows. I loved the Hardy Boys mysteries. Mm-hmm. So Parker Stevenson and Sean Cassidy. And I got to actually work with Parker on an episode of Bull and told him that I was a Hardy Boys fan, and he just stared at me. No, he's the nicest guy in the world. We actually went to the same boarding school, separate years apart. Yeah, a decade apart. So I loved all that, $6 Million Man.
Yes.
Like Lee Majors. Oh my gosh. But then as a young teenager, David Bowie and The Hunger, Peter O'Toole in My Favorite Year. And then I swerved back into the comedy with Michael Keaton as Mr. Mom, Tom Hanks in Splash, Bill Murray in Stripes and Ghostbusters, and Dan Aykroyd. And that really brought me up to where I am now in terms of my level of emotional maturity. Ghostbusters.
Basically.
Who are you going to call?
Who was scarier, Mark or Don?
Don.
Oh, why?
Mark was never in the Marines.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I saw Harmon's number on my phone, I'd be like, oh, what does Mark want? And I'd be like, hey, man, what's going on? If I saw Don Belisario's office calling and Patty was like, I have Don for you, I was like, oh, God, I'd pull my car over. I'd be like, okay, all right, just breathe. Michael, it's Don. Hey, Don, how are you? Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me.
That's the best. That's like your mom. Oh, hi, Don. The best.
Yeah, so fear knows no question.
Okay, dear viewers and listeners, get your blankets, herbs, and crystals out because it's time for your daily off-duty horoscope, better known as Gibbs Rule of the Day. Gibbs Rule of the Day. Rule number 23. What is it?
Always be kind and rewind.
No, this is actually like
it's from the days of VHS.
This is like a Gibbs thing. Like you'll get it when you hear it and you'll be like, whoa.
What
did he
brush
drink?
And floss?
What did he drink every day?
Bourbon.
No. And the cup.
Oh, the coffee.
The coffee. So never mess with a Marine's coffee if you want to live.
And I just said, because guess who the real Marine was?
Don.
Yeah, never mess with that guy's coffee.
That must be one of Don's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must be one of his things.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Or John Kelly.
John Kelly.
Remember John Kelly?
Yes, I remember you went to the
Well, we don't have to get into that story. But yes, John Kelly,
Yes.
a fantastic, talented. Okay, all right. We can.
Stopped me from saying something. This is the first, and it's one of the best moments I think I've ever had with you because it's right live on television. You can't say it didn't happen.
No, I'm not saying it didn't happen.
I'm saying not this moment didn't happen. Like you could censor the moment if you don't want to talk about it. That is your choice to make.
Just to see the upside.
But I loved the reaction to that. It didn't happen.
I mean, there's no reason to get into it.
Thank you for being with us. And
yes. I just want to remind everyone that you can watch episodes of NCIS on Paramount Plus, and new episodes are on CBS Network.
Cherie, next week on Off Duty.
Oh my God, this is an exciting one. A Marine sergeant's wife is thought to have been abducted until Gibbs and his team find evidence to suggest that she may have been murdered live on the internet. Huh? Sex, murder, mystery. Sounds like season 3 to me. What more could you possibly want at season 3, episode 6? The Voyeur's Web.
Ooh. Foof.